Hey everybody, welcome back to Code 4 Cooking. I'm Jeff. Again, today we're going to go about things a little different. Tonight's a twofer. We want to have appetizers two different ways. So first one we're going to do is going to be Orzo stuffed mushrooms. The next one, classic deviled eggs. Let's get started.
My name is Jeff Antonaco. I was a paramedic for over 26 years. I did my bit for King and Country, but it took its toll. Physically, emotionally, and mentally. One thing that could always bring me peace and calm, and that's cooking. Ask my partners. We ate well. Now I want to share that place with you. For my first responder and military family, I want to share my knowledge and experience of cooking, start to finish, with me, and hope you can find your peace and calm while cooking. And to anyone else just starting or in need of a person to cook with, from gathering and prepping our ingredients to cooking, and finally plating and tasting, let's help you find that peace and calm as well in cooking. So come on, cook with me.
Alright guys, here we go. So the reason we're doing these two this way may not sound like they go together, but I was trying to think of a way that you can have two appetizers, but having them being cooked at the same time. So our overall time on this video, hopefully, by the time we're done, we'll have our mushrooms coming out of the oven, our deviled eggs going to be finished prepped and cooled, and then we'll be putting those out so we can have a hot and cold appetizer at the same time. All right? So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get a pot. Pot's got to be big enough to be able to hold all of our eggs. We're going to fill the water up, get it on the stove, and get this started to boil, and then we're going to add our eggs. So when we add our eggs, you're going to need something like a slotted spoon, something to be able to just set the eggs in there nice and gentle. In the meantime, once we get this water on the go, prep your oven, have it set at 400 degrees. Let's get some water. Alright, so as the water is filling, which is only going to take a couple seconds, on this side we've got our mushrooms, our breadcrumbs, pepper, oil, salt in a small bowl. Over here is everything we're going to need for our deviled eggs. Now, once we get our water boiling, we're going to slowly lower our eggs in, and then we're going to get this bowl for an ice bath. Alright, so I've got a pan about 3/4 full of water. Get your right element. Focus. We're not in a rush. Look at that. Amazing what happens when you choose the right element. Now I want you to be mindful on this. 3/4 of a pot of water, and these eggs are going to go into it. So when the eggs go in, we are going to have a water displacement. Okay, it's a fancy word, but when you talk about putting the eggs in, you're adding a solid matter into your water, so you're just going to raise the water level. So we have to be careful that we're not going to be putting so many eggs in that this is going to boil over. Now, to be on the safe side, if that does happen, look ahead of time, but all you're going to need is a coffee cup. You got a handle on it. You're just going to dip it in the water and lift out what little water you need to. Dump that in the sink, and that way when our water is, as we're adding our eggs, we're not going to boil over. Alright, so we're going to set that down as a safety feature. Going to put our eggs to the side of the stove. We've got our mushrooms here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at getting our topping for our mushrooms. We've got an Italian style breadcrumbs. You can use whatever breadcrumbs you like, whether it's plain, Italian, what have you. We're going to look at about a half a cup. And we're just going to measure that out. Put that in there. Put our lid on. Now, Italian seasoning was already in here. So we're just going to add a little bit of salt. Just a couple pinches. And we're just going to add a little shake of black pepper. And we're going to take a fork and we're just going to mix that salt and pepper together. Just give it a nice gentle stir. You don't need to go crazy and start having this breadcrumb spread all over the place, making a mess. And now, got our olive oil. Now you've seen me use these before. This is nothing more than a 29-cent squirt bottle. Get off of Amazon. Your food quality. We buy our olive oil in bulk because we use so much of it. So, but I find going with a smaller bottle is a lot easier to maintain, a lot easier to hold on to, and that way you don't have to worry about over pouring. Make sense? So, just make sure you label it, and then when you get down to the very bottom, before you fill it up again, clean it, rinse it out, make sure that you're not, having rancid oil going in or rancid oil staying in and then contaminating everything you put in there. All right, now we just need a little bit of olive oil. So, there we go. Now, the purpose of the olive oil in this is to make everything sticky. So, it doesn't take a lot, but we're going to kind of mash this down. And you'll see towards the end as we go ahead and put this on the top of the mushroom. It's going to stay in place and not fall all over. And that's all we're doing. Okay, we've got a good mix. We're going to set this off to the side for the moment. Alright, now we're going to get our bowl. We're going to fill it full of ice. Alright, or half full of ice. And then we're going to be taking our eggs once they've cooked, putting them in the ice, covering them with water, and we're going to let them cool before we peel them and start working with them again. Alright, so just take a minute, however your ice maker is, grab some ice. So in my case, my bowl, too big. So I just got to go to the refrigerator here. There's some ice to go in. I'll get a little more. There we go. Alright. So, we'll save that for later because we'll need it. Alright. So there's our bowl full of ice. And we're going to add the eggs to the bowl of ice. We'll add some water on top. Okay. So as soon as that's ready, that's what we're going to do. In the meantime, our water is still coming up to temp. And there's a lot of times when we're working with our appetizers that sometimes it's just tedious. And you want to look at these mushrooms and go, it's a lot of mushrooms to be standing here and popping the stems out and filling with the cheese and everything else. So I'm going to tell you, not everything has to be done standing up in front of the kitchen, standing up in front of the camera. So what I'm going to do, I've got my mushrooms, I've got my baking tray that's going to go on, I've got my cheese, and back here in the dining room, I've got a knife to spread the cheese, and I've got a fork, if need be, and a spoon. We'll move our breadcrumbs with, and then we also have a bowl set aside for the stems. So when we go over to the dining room and you remove the stems, you got to put the stems somewhere. I got a bowl to throw the stems into, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to move the mushrooms and the cheese. Here are my breadcrumbs for the topping. Alright, very good. Alright, now our water is almost to boil. Now I want you to remember when we bring a pot of water to boil like this, once we add, obviously it's boiling hot, but we're adding something cool or cold to a hot liquid. So every time you do that, you're going to suck the heat out to whatever's cold. So it'll have to bring that boiling back up. Alright, so if you just set all these eggs in there right away, just dump them all in. Number one, you'll probably spill water on your stove. Bad idea. Plus, you might get splashback. You don't want splashback. Alright? You want to be careful with this. Now, Code 4 cooking is about being safe, about not needing resources, about being relaxed, cool, calm, and collected. So we don't need to cause a problem. We're trying to avoid the problem. That's why we have our slotted spoon. We have our eggs. And as the water comes up to a boil, we're going to set them in one at a time. If you need to take any water out, you have a coffee cup to just dip inside there and remove any excess water. Once all the eggs are in, you're going to find yourself reducing the heat that you started at. Remember, we want that fire ring 3/4 of the way out, but once we add our eggs and it starts to come to a boil again, we can reduce that because we're not going to need to be heating the entire thing up from scratch. So we're going to be maintaining that simmer, that boil. So we can set the eggs in, watch it come to a boil, lower our temperature, and you'll see it go down to that rolling boil where you're not having big splashes, things aren't popping out of the pan. And at that point, you know you're going to be at the right boil. Now we're going to go ahead and set our temperature or our time for 11 minutes. Okay, so if it's at a full raging boil, you're not doing yourself any benefit. Right? This is, again, you cook it too fast, your eggs will crack, they'll explode, you're not going to get the right texture, you're not going to get the right consistency, and then you're kind of throwing your whole game plan off. That's where it's not that's going to make you frustrated. It's going to be making you frustrated when you're peeling them and you're watching them come apart and aren't what you wanted. And now you're frustrated. Part of that could be is that you cooked it too high and too fast. All right. So if we looked at our water right now, and I'm not doing multiple camera angles on this because it's just going to, you know what a boiling water looks like. Right now it's got all those bubbles, nice and light bubbles on the bottom and the sides coming up, screaming to be done and ready. So we're going to take a minute, get our eggs over to the side of the pan. Now, once this is ready, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my eggs in. I'm going to make sure that the water temperature to be boiling at is correct. I'm going to set an 11-minute timer. And then you and I are going to go seat ourselves at the dining room table so we're comfortable. We're going to crack open that Boursin cheese. We're going to start stemming the mushrooms. We'll start putting these things together until our eggs are done. Now, when our eggs are done, we're going to take a minute and come back to the kitchen, put them in our ice bath, stick them in the sink. We're off to the side so we've got them covered in water and ice. And while they're cooling, we'll finish up the mushrooms and then get them into our oven and just have them start cooking. They're going to cook for about 10 to 15 minutes. That's about the time it's going to take for us to put together our deviled eggs. All right, we've got a good roll on our water here. So one at a time. I'm going to set these eggs in here. And I'm watching our water level come up. Our eggs are completely submerged. If you find one of these eggs crack all of a sudden, just leave it. All right, now I can do with taking a little bit of water off here. Real gentle. Here we go. And I'm only taking off like 1.5 ounces of water at a time. There, oh, that's perfect. Like I said, we want to err on the side of caution. Here's the bowl that had our eggs in it. We'll set that over by the sink. We'll be putting that in the dishwasher later. I'm going to lower my temperature. And I'm going to set my timer for 11 minutes. If at any point while we're in the other room you hear any splashes, just stand up, come to the kitchen and take a look, see where you're at. Okay? But I think we're going to be good with the temperature that we got it set at. So, you ready to go sit down and relax for a minute? Come on with me. All right. So here we are. There's our mushrooms. How are we looking? Oh, yeah, I'd say we're doing pretty good. You know, I may just let this whole thing roll out while I'm doing these adjustments. As long as it doesn't make anybody sick. All right, here we go. So, like I said, we've got our mushrooms. We got our boursin cheese. Now, you open this up, get the foil all the way around it, opened. I know, I'm licking my fingers. Here we go. Now keep in mind, guys, don't go too crazy. This is for me, right? So we got a little thing to wipe my hands off on there. We're going to take the top of that foil off, set it off to the side. Now, rather than doing mushroom cheese topper, we're going to go ahead back and forth with that there. Take your mushroom, hold it firmly. You take it, pull it towards you gently, push it away. Stem comes out. There. Now, if you've thought ahead of time, and when I mean ahead of time, I mean tomorrow or later tonight or what have you, save your mushroom stems if you're going to be using them right away, and you can use them in a mushroom gravy. And that way you aren't missing out. Like I said, kind of tedious, which is a good reason why, as we're doing this, you've got your emergency supply of Ritz crackers or saltines or what have you. And we are going to go for a quality check on our cheese. Very nice. The garlic and herb boursin is very good. If you're here by yourself, I would say put on a movie or catch up on your shows, because it does take a little bit of time here to go through these mushrooms. I actually am going to be using some of these stems tomorrow. I will for certainly be using these other mushrooms tomorrow. Now, I think This is why if you have somebody to come sit with you, keep you company, or watch a show, that's good. But I'm going to stop with this one here. I'm going to set my extra mushrooms over here with the others. You know, interesting thing, I don't know if you know it or not, I was told that the salty side is not the salty side that goes up. Salty side goes down. So you're almost putting that boursin on the back side of the cracker. And the reason for that is that when you put the cracker in your mouth, the salt hits your tongue, wakens everything up. So you get that salty flavor, and then the cheese and whatever other toppings you have on it. Very good. Remember, we can see inside our kitchen. We can hear what's going on. You may not find this boursin very easy to spread. Just be gentle when you're putting it on there. Now you want it flat on the top of the mushroom. And the reason for that is that you want something for your topping, the breadcrumbs, to sit flat on and not fall off when you apply them. And if you press too hard, you will break your mushroom. So go slow, take your time. It's so much easier than standing up. And that's not laziness. So I hope nobody says that. If you had a choice, standing for the length of time it takes to do this, or being comfortable, seated in your own home, I think you would take seated. Now, I made these for my niece's. My niece had a party, and she had asked me to come up with a couple appetizers. This was one of them. They were a hit. Now, everybody's got the recipe. One of the reasons why I'm doing this today is because I thought, you know, it is a great recipe. They're so flavorful. They just appear daunting. But you just take your time. Go one at a time. Just repetition. Like I said, my house, my table, everything was clean before I sat down here. You should clean your table every day after every meal, so that way you don't risk mucking up your next meal. Besides, who wants to sit at a dirty table? Even if you are alone, take some pride. You sit down at that table, and you want to sit down and feel good about what you're eating. You also want to feel good about where you're eating. If you're sitting amongst rubbish, you are not going to enjoy your meal as much as you think you would. But if you come in every day, a nice clean table, you will feel happy to sit down at that table and eat that meal. Now, these are different sized mushrooms, and yes, they're going to cook at slightly different rates. Because of that, you want to put the larger mushrooms on the outside of your tray. This is quality control if anybody asks. You need to know if they taste the same start to finish. That's good. Now, we are quickly running out of cheese. We're also quickly running out of mushrooms. So let's hope this works out just right. No way. This is almost perfect. All right. We have our mushrooms. We won't be making any more because we are all out of the cheese. So we'll finish it off with one last cracker. Very good. I think we're doing good on time in the kitchen too. Set that on our table. There's our timer. Okay, guys. So we're going to take you back to the kitchen. Take care of that alarm. Alright, we got our alarms turned off. This is a trivet. I got my hot gloves here. I'm going to turn that element off. Now, we have our ice bath. Just one at a time, nice and easy. See that one there? Cracked a little bit. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it did. Just nice and gentle. There we go. There. Now, remember I told you we're going to use this mug again. Here it is. Now, this would be perfect, but I'm going to go ahead and run some cold water over top to it and keep it cold. And I'm going to take our hot pan and get it out of our way. Put that to the back there. Now, one of the things that we're going to look at here is you take that bowl, it's got all that ice in it. Once you add the water, just touch the eggs and that pushes them down underneath so it's submerged. Right? And that's going to start the cooling process on those pretty quick. Now, we're going to go back to the dining area. I'm going to adjust our camera here because we're not in the best spot. How's that better? Okay. So, coming back to the kitchen, remember we're going to take our larger mushrooms, and smaller mushrooms, with the larger ones on the outside, smaller ones in the middle. And you're going to do just the best you can, because they're mushrooms. They all come in different sizes. Some will cook quickly and some won't. At the end of the day, I'm pretty sure what you're going to end up with is delicious. Okay. All right, now, this is where we're going to finish up our mushrooms. We've got our topping. Now you can use a fork, you can use your spoon, or you can just use your fingers. If you're concerned if you're doing this for other people, please feel free to wash your hands before you do this. And we're just, since they're all tucked together, I'm just going to spread this on. Remember, we tried to make this as flat as possible on these so the crumbs don't fall completely away. Some people will say, well, it's kind of a, if you have it, you have it. If you don't, you don't. Yeah. Something like this, you really want to make sure you got those crumbs on there. It makes a difference. Number one, it's your promise that you made when you took this on. And if you're making this for your family or yourself, you want to have follow-through. You know, the responsibility of following the recipe. And you don't come back later saying, I wish, or I could have, or it would have been nice. Take the time. You have it. Get the topping on here. These are quite a few stuffed mushrooms. So I think you would agree with me that we have a fair amount. If you don't use all of the breadcrumbs, don't worry about it. This isn't about using all the breadcrumbs. This is about making stuffed mushrooms with topping as an appetizer. Alright, now we're going to take our tray. This is ready to go. We're going to put it in the oven. We're going to set the timer for 10 minutes. We'll take a look at them, see if they need a few more minutes. So, let's go ahead. In they go. There. Alright. Excuse me, bud. Remember, we talk about this as we go. We want to clean as we go. So I'm going to set some of this stuff right away. The recycling, garbage. I'm going to clear my trash. Now I'm going to set this plate back of the counter. Remember, I'm just here by myself. Put my crackers back there as well. No longer need our trivet. Alright, where are we at here? There's our crumb topping. We can set that over here. And now, what we're going to do is we're going to get out a bowl and we're going to measure out our mix for our classic eggs. Because that's what we need. I don't need a bowl that big. This one will suffice. Alright, mayonnaise, sweet pickle relish, paprika for our finish, simple yellow mustard. If you wanted to use a Dijon or a stone ground, anything like that, you're welcome to it. And then we've got a little bit of salt and pepper to just sprinkle in them as we go. Deviled eggs are a wonderful thing to have. You guys have had them before. If not, this is a very simple recipe because it's just got the basic deviled egg ingredients. The joy of deviled eggs is you can now start adding different flavors, more flavors if you want. We have recipes for sriracha deviled eggs, smoked deviled eggs, bacon deviled eggs. So you can keep adding different ingredients. Just when you do, don't go overboard. You want to take your time and go one at a time, figure out where you're at. If the flavor's good, go for it. If you're not happy with it, change it. I have my cutting board here we're going to need when the eggs are cooled. And a knife there for that. But in the meantime, right. Alright, so 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise. Now, we can go ahead and scoop two teaspoons of mayonnaise. Or we can take a different kind of spoon. And that looks like about 2 teaspoons of mayonnaise. Let's put that in there. Alright. We know if we need to, we can add more later. Alright, now we need 1.5 tablespoons of sweet pickle relish. So again, we got 1.5 tablespoons here. There's that. And we need a teaspoon of prepared mustard, and that's this. Remember, hold your finger over the top of the bottle while it's closed and give it a shake. So a lot of times there's just that little bit of water that starts to separate, and you don't want that spraying out first, so you just give it a little shake. Then you've seen what tablespoons look like. We're just gonna, yeah, that looks good. Like I said, salt. Just a shake of pepper. Remember, you don't want it pepper heavy. You don't want to be tasting nothing but pepper. So as you add the ingredients, take your time. Start whisking them together. There. Now, so here's the tricky part. Let's go ahead, we're going to take 1 egg. So you've got your 1 egg. It's been cooling. I'm going to crack the top, crack the bottom, and then just slowly start taking the peel off. You work your way all the way around nice and slow. And there you go. You got your egg off. I'll leave that one over there. Grab our next egg. Just take your time. You want that shell to come clean. Now we're going to take it over to the sink and give it a little rinse in some water. Come back here now. Got a knife. We're going to cut the length of the egg. Just nice and gentle pressure, go all the way down. And then your yolk. See if we can come in close enough to see it. It's a little shadowed, but there you go. You got a nice clean yolk to it. We're going to take our spoon, drop the yolk in, Drop that yolk in. Now, let's go ahead and put our whites on the plate. We're going to come back again and get our eggs. If you feel more comfortable standing over by the sink or your shell bowl, go for it. It's just nice and easy as these come off. Alright, little rinse in the water. And you're just rinsing the little scrappy shells that come off here. Top, bottom. Nice and easy. All right. Here we go. Now, if the eggs don't peel great, if you end up coming off and finding yourself with the weird chunks of white folding away and they don't look that great, they're still going to taste great. So don't let that interfere with shelling the eggs and continuously going with them. Top, bottom. And someone out there is very astutely going to say, why top and bottom? Well, I've done the rollout method, where you put the egg flat, and you just press it out so the whole sides and everything else. It works, but not 100% of the time. Where this way, I feel like you're removing a lot of the pressure, top and bottom, so the sides are just giving up. If you find a different way that works for you, go for it. If you like and subscribe and want to share, tell us what you do. That's awesome too. So what happened, I'm going to fill you guys in on this, because I'm hoping this is going to just continue to work. Just as we were cracking that last egg, the first egg, my camera ran out of power. Ta-da! So I had to take the time of plugging you back in. And now I'm in a position where I'm hoping that this is still recording properly and you guys are still enjoying this. If not, you won't know anything about this anyway. I'm going to go in here, I got to check on the mushrooms. We're going to see how they're doing. Alright, those are crusting up and cooking up nice. Let's give them 5 more minutes. Okay. And we'll keep going with our eggs. Alright, cut lengthwise, nice and gentle. Pop that yolk out. Stubborn one. No, don't fall in. He sounds it. Take your time. Don't cut yourself. You probably just give a little gentle squeeze on the sides, and those yolks are going to come right out. Slow cut. See, you rush it, and then you end up breaking one. I rushed that one. But you know what that means. That's right, baby. Taste test. And yes, you could say it's cheating because I know what eggs taste like. But it's cook's prerogative. For there. Now, of course, just like we were talking about volume in cooking, with the water, we're having the same thing with the volume of yolk to white ratio. So what I mean by that is, as we get our egg yolks mixed in with our mayonnaise and our salt and pepper and our relish and what else we put in. Remember, we've added to this, so you have more filling now than you're going to have eggs. Now you can get fancy at this point. And you can get a piping bag and pipe them into the eggs. You can use our spoon, use a fork, whatever you have handy or whatever you're able to use. This is the time where we taste everything before we put it on our eggs. Alright. Alright, I'm thinking this has got a nice balance to it. So now I'm going to take my spoon and just drop it inside the egg, well, the egg half. And yes, if you pipe it in, it goes a little bit smoother, but if you spoon it in, you're just going to spoon it in and touch it down. You're guesstimating how much you're putting on the spoon to fill the egg. Man, I gotta tell you, do you see? They're waiting. And there they go. They went to see if anybody was here, and it's still just us. But man, were they focused on hoping I dropped something as penance. Because they wanted to eat that up for sure. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Of course, another reason why they're sticking by me is that it's their dinner time. You still there? We're still cooking? Oh, guess what? Mushrooms are done. Alright, excuse me for a sec. The oven off. Got my gloves, oven gloves. Oh boy. Now those are some pretty mushrooms. You can see all the way into the inside there, they're all cooked. Yeah, we got a nice browning on top. So I'm going to call those done. If we wanted to, and you question the doneness, this is a thermometer, a thermopop thermometer. You just touch it in there. And this is when you remind your guests you're not serving them right off the bat. Because these are all temping out in the 180s to to 190s. So those need to cool down long before we get to them. Right? Alright, let's get the last of our egg mixture here. There. Alright. Those are done. One last thing to do. We're going to add a little bit of paprika. Now, you've heard me say this before in seasoning aspects. Closer you go, the tighter the pack of the seasoning is. The higher you go, the more spread out it is. We're in a kitchen. You don't have a breeze. 6 inches to a foot. And just real gentle. Paprika does have a flavor, but it's not the star of the show. So all we're doing is adding a little contrast. Okay. So now we have our plate of deviled eggs. Tongs. Alright, there's a nice plate of our stuffed mushrooms, as you can see there. Now, these things are still smoking hot. So I am going to hold off on having a test run with you guys. You want to give these things another 5-10 minutes to cool down, otherwise you're going to burn your mouth. Alright, let's, from here, all we have to do is put all of our mustard and relish and mayonnaise back in the fridge. The other things to go in the pantry, put the mushrooms in the fridge, everything else goes to clean up. By the time you're done with that, I'm pretty sure everything will be ready to be tasted. Alright, hopefully this video's worked out. And, you know, hopefully you like it. Like and subscribe. Tell me what you think in the comments. If you have any other ideas, if you want to share with us your ideas of different types of deviled eggs that you make, or stuffed mushrooms, whether you're doing it with the Boursin cheese or you're trying it with the crab or the shrimp. Lots of different ways to stuff mushrooms. So like and subscribe, that way we can keep these videos coming to you guys. I hope you enjoy what you've cooked here. Remember, at the end of the day, you're never out of the fight and you're never alone. You can always come here, Code 4 Cooking. We're going to do some cooking together. We're going to relax together. We're going to eat together. Can you resist? I don't think so. Alright guys, we're going to see you back here at Code 4 Cooking. And we'll see about getting some more stuff out there for you. Alright, take care, stay safe.